So what I promised to talk about was locomotion for vegetation with legged robots. And I know that this was mostly done by my former postdoc, Justin, who wanted to be here but had some excuse about getting married this week. Since his regrets. And so what's this all about? So here's one of our quadruped robots walking around on campus in this dense vegetation, these sort of ivy vines, and almost immediately gets completely stuck and just like can't make any progress in this. And we think that things like off-road, vegetated areas, that's where we should be using our legged robots, right? So how do we disentangle from numerous, and these are flexible, unavoidable, they're not just touching the feet, they're touching the arms, they're touching the body, this sort of challenge. But before I get to sort of how we do this, I wanted to point out that I'm a card-carrying cult member. So there was a question about this earlier. And you know, I think of it as there's like so many advantages, and I probably missed some here. But so what do we talk about when we talk about batch adaptability? Usually mean low gear reduction. So that means possibly even no gearbox if it's direct drive. So it's lighter, cheaper, simpler. You don't have to buy a gearbox, or you buy a cheaper gearbox. Low friction, you know, losing stuff in the gearbox. One of the big ones is lower reflected inertia. So the inertia of the rotor gets amplified by gear ratio squared. So these 50 to 1s, 100 to 1s, that gets really big. It's faster, you're not reducing the speed. With lower inertia, so you have higher acceleration. And then these two, the impact mitigation. So because there's lower inertia, when you hit something, there's lower impulse. And then sensing is very good for proprioception. These are two of my sort of favorite reasons for doing this. And so here I'll show you an example. This is the first thing I did as a PhD student in like 2009 or 2010. So here's Rex walking around, feeling its way out of this maze, using only motor encoders. So the legs swing up, there's very low inertia, so they just sort of feel the box. We measure that the leg didn't move where we thought it was going to move, and it can sort of feel this. All right, so this is using the fact that it's not punching through the box, it's not breaking the leg, and we're using the sensing properties of the legs in order to solve that. The main disadvantage, I think there's really just one, maybe there's others. We put gearboxes on to increase the torque. So if you reduce the gear ratio, you get less torque. And typically that means if you still want to do the same task, you just generate more heat. So you have to use higher currents on your motor overheats. So this is sort of the problem. We like robots to be strong, or prosthetics, or any of these things. And so not having torque is a problem. What are the things we can do with this kind of transparency? So I apologize, this is not dynamic locking, this is a gripper. Are we allowed to do manipulation here? Is that okay? But just pretend that they're legs. And so on top here, it's a direct drive, so it's no gearbox. We're taking this hand, we told the arm max speed as fast as you can into the table. It doesn't break the fingers, it doesn't break the table. It hits that, we can sense that very quickly. The fingers can move very fast, so we can sense it quickly, we can react quickly, squeeze down, grab the object, and lift it up. So we're just sort of, smacking it on the table, picking it up in one smooth motion. The other thing we can do would be contact localization. So not just did we hit something, but where on the surface of our leg or finger did we touch something. So here we're running the finger over an object, and we're sensing where on the finger we're touching, and we can map out, we can sort of drag our finger across something and feel what we're touching. And then I wanted to focus in just a little bit on that idea about being good at impact. And here, one of the surprising things we found is that with these direct drive or transparent actuators, the faster you go, the lower the total impulse for this kind of hit and come back task. And that's because the sensing is so much better. You can sense quickly and react quickly. So the initial impulse is smaller, but then the time it takes to figure out that you hit something goes down. So that's kind of cool. All right, now with a minute left, I'll start my talk. So how do we get through this vegetation? So the two key ingredients are proprioceptive sensing, which uses this kind of transparent actuation. So we've got to feel that we've hit something, and then some kind of reactive control, thinking a lot about the geometry to like unhook yourself wherever that vine might be. If you do something simple, like just the default walking or just always taking a really high step, you get caught on the vine, And then if you use this proprioception with reactive control, we're able to get through all of these different ones. So this was like a very loose bungee cord. This was a stiff rope. That's just a plate of metal. And then here they put everything, threw everything at it, lots of obstacles to get up. He told me, oh, sure, I'll go back and I'll go slower then. This is, I don't know, one of my favorites, robot torture devices. So this is a soccer net, stretched out horizontally, like 3 or 4 inches above the ground. So it's just like all obstacles. And it's able to, this one's stuck, oh, this one's stuck, oh, this one's stuck, and make its way through. We did briefly take this outside. Of course, we did this experiment in the winter, so that's the same patch of vines from the first one. And it's able to go a little farther. It's still not great. We got to work on integrating it with our body state estimation. This other one's from mocap to work a little better. And then finally, with my who knows how long, I'll mention all of this was done in our Quad SDK framework. Which is open source. We spent a lot of time getting this to be really easy to use, and there's good visualization, there's high-level path planning, low-level control, and there's a branch that does all that vegetation stuff as well. So if you want to quickly download something and play around with quadruped control, do this, and then do some machine learning thing that does better than this. So I'll stop there.
When you're talking about the proprioception stuff, you're able to tell there's something interacting with it, right?
Yeah.
Is that not unique though? Like, does it assume something's interacting with the foot? What if it interacts somewhere else in the limb?
Yeah, so certainly in the contact localization stuff, we're figuring out where on the leg, we did it with the leg, but I didn't put that video, on the leg or the finger or whatever, you can look at basically the velocity that you're moving and figure out where that velocity constraint must have been to localize that. In the vegetation stuff, we're just saying if we're hooked anywhere, because frankly, it's like a vine, it's flexible. With these legs, almost certainly after a moment, it's going to be hooked in your elbow. So it was like a little bit less interesting of a localization problem. And so and they move around, and there's probably more than one of them. So we said if we hooked on anything, let's try and unhook from everything. Yeah, in the back.
Yeah, I think the demos are really cool. But I'm interested in the Quad SDK software stack. So like, if I have a new kind of obstacle that's maybe a different challenge, how easy is it for like someone with a controls background to implement new policies into that stack?
Yeah, so we tried to make it very modular. So if you want to just come up with a different way to decide when you go around and when you jump, you can just place the high level. You've got your own MPC thing based on, I don't know, optimization all the way down or something, or machine learning, and you can plug it in there. So that's sort of plug and play. And similarly, at the end of the day, it's in Gazebo or PyBullet, and you can add whatever obstacles. So we did, I don't know the animation. In simulation, we had a vine, which we did as a series of rigid links with springs in between them. So we could simulate getting these kind of vine-like obstacles to test that and all of that.
Thank you.
Are the trajectories pre-computed? Do you have like a library or?
The recovery trajectory there, it's more or less pre-computed. It's not exactly do this, but it's basically doing the same reaction each time, and that could certainly be made better. But the thought was there's going to be lots of obstacles. If you're in a vine patch or that soccer net, and just avoid everything. In the back.
Go on. Would Rex go through those lines?
Say that again?
Would Rex go through the lines?
Would Rex?
Have go through your lines?
Yes. Yeah, Rex is great at that kind of stuff, unless you go backwards. Never go backwards with Rex, because that just hooks everything. Only go forwards. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you thought about switching the gate type to become less sticky in the vines? I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't include it, but you know, we think of this sort of control hierarchy. We could probably optimize it, Harvard, but we have some control hierarchy, and this is picking one level and saying this is where we should react. But for other kinds of vegetation, like say a tree, you're not going to step over the tree, right? So that needs to be at a higher level and says like, okay, if there's a tree, you go around it.
So, speaking of
Last
that,
question.
there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. This one.
No, no.
Good.
I can ask you later. Okay, we spent time.